I teach an entire workshop, and we taught it here at the Coast for years and years. It's a difficult workshop called Character, Voice, and Setting. And the idea of that workshop is to expose writers to all the different ways that you can make characters unique and give them a voice and make your setting come alive through your characters. That's what that workshop is. That's what it's all about. The depth workshop plays into it. The pacing workshop plays into it, and this one will play into it. Now we kind of have 4 workshops that sort of fit together. You take in any kind of order. The character voice is what most people think about when you hear the word voice bandied around, like a badminton. The problem is author voice. Now, author voice is what we're after here. Author voice is one of the aspects we're after. They were after a number of different things. But author voice is one of the things that you can never see. I can't see my own author voice, but yet someone will pick up a story and they'll go, oh, this is Dean. I can hear him talking. And I look at it and think it's just plain writing. Or I have some really unique character voice going on in there, but my author voice is still all the way through it. Now, as a media and ghostwriter for years and years, I learned how to tamp down my own author voice, and I also could see other authors' voices as a ghostwriter, and I could mimic them. Did that mean that I could see my own voice? No. And every so often, as a first reader on a ghost novel, I would have to pull out things that were my author voice that made a hint that it wasn't the author that I was ghosting for's voice. But I'm really good at mimicking and seeing other authors' voices. Most people don't need that skill. I would not recommend you learn it. It's worthless. But you certainly can't see your own. And even with that skill level that I have of being a ghostwriter and mimicking other authors' voices, I still can't see my own voice. To me, and to all of us, again, I'm no exception in this, the boring stuff in our writing is our author voice. Why? Why does that work that way? Well, because that's the stuff that just seems normal in our heads. And so when we put it in, from the creative voice in our fiction, it seems boring. Oh, I should take out that boring stuff. Not necessarily. If it's a boring plot detail or repetition of a plot detail or something else like that doesn't really fit anywhere, yeah, maybe. But again, and we'll talk about different levels of rewriting as we get through this, because that's an important element of originality too. But right now, one of the aspects about author voice is that you just can't see it. You have to leave stuff in. If you're going through in a rewrite and pulling out all the dull stuff, you're pulling out your author voice. Now, the best example I can give on this is that you look at a whole bunch of really, really, really incredible rocks. I mean, they're gorgeous. They've got sharp points and facets in them, and and they reflect light as you turn them and everything else. And they're incredible, and they're different, and each rock is unique, and each rock is made differently. And then you throw all those rocks into a polisher, go away for a while, change all the stuff out, and they all come out polished and looking the same. Aren't they pretty? They're all polished down to a fine tune. No. Editors can spot a polish from across a room and are not interested. We're just not interested, folks. Because it's just like every other rock in the polished. They're all the same. Now, we don't want typos. I'm not talking typos here. For some reason, beginning writers automatically think, well, I've got to polish all the typos out. Well, yeah, you got to get a clean manuscript as much as you can clean, but typos are not polishing. If you make your story, if you grind all your author voice out down to the point that the story is just like every other story, it will not get bought, and readers won't buy it or remember it if they do happen to buy it. They just won't. You have to leave your own originality. You have to leave that rock as much as you can in that rock form, not down into that polished little nugget form. Because a polished nugget looks like every other polished nugget. You guys have walked into junk tourist stores and found big boxes of, here on the Oregon coast, every tourist store has this giant box of polished agates. They're awful. You just scoop them up by the handful. Nobody looks at them. They put them in the bottom of fish tanks, and that's where it belongs. Is that where your story you want it to belong? I don't think so. You know, I think you want your story to still remain with uniqueness, and the uniqueness is your voice. The uniqueness is there. So and part of what we're going to do for the next 6 weeks here is we're going to try to work on allowing you to have a finely tuned, no mistakes, meaning no typos or no wrong words spelled correctly, that sort of crap. That's called copy editing. You want to have that. You definitely want to have that. But you want to yet leave the sharp edges on your story, the uniqueness on your story, what makes your story you, by leaving your author voice in. Okay? And I will work with you, and Chris will work, Chris and I in this workshop, again, I did it again there. Chris and I will work with you in this workshop to recognize how when you're getting to your author voice and when you're writing right between your eyebrows. Because if you're writing right between your eyebrows, it's going to be dull and there will be no author voice. But if you allow this part of your brain to work, the author voice will be in there, and then you got to leave it in there. That's a key. That's a key to originality, is leaving your author voice in your stories. That will make them your stories. And you and I could write the same plot. And if you leave your author voice in and I leave my author voice in, they're going to be two distinctly different stories. And that's what makes writing and the art of writing wonderful. But you have to learn and untrain all of this stuff that we were trained from beginning childhood on, that we have to have this author voice. You leave the author voice in. And all that stuff from childhood. You remember you were sitting in classes with 30 other people, and the key was act like everybody else. Well, in writing, no, you don't act like everybody else. As Chris often says, writers are 2-year-olds. Act like a 2-year-old. Be original.